At the end of this module, participants will be able to identify the 3 circles of customer service success and how they relate to each other, describe the types of customers found in a long-term care environment, and define how customer service applies in long-term care. Success as a customer service provider requires that you develop 3 interlocking sets of skills. One skill involves managing yourself, which is very helpful when dealing with difficult customers. Managing the interaction requires that you move smoothly through the steps to help the customer and end on a positive note. A third skill set helps you manage the customer by building rapport and delivering the desired service efficiently. Who are the customers found in a skilled nursing or assisted living facility? The most obvious is someone who receives service from you directly, like a resident. But it can also be someone who indirectly receives the benefit of your service, such as a family member. But what about a prospective resident and their family? Or a referral source, such as a physician? What about your coworkers? How do you think the relationship with your colleagues will change if you treat them like your customers? In other words, a customer could be anyone who you interact with every day. So shouldn't you treat everyone in the spirit of service? What exactly is customer service and how does it apply to long-term care? Customer service is the method you use to deliver your service to the customer, but more importantly, how you treat the customer in the process. As a general rule, you should not only agree to do what a customer asks, but deliver more. For example, if a resident asks you for a blanket, bring 2. Keep this in mind. If you set out to do more than you're asked, you'll often receive more than you expect. When setting your goals for delivering exceptional customer service, just remember MEL. Meet, then exceed the customer's expectations. Engage the customer with a positive, helpful attitude. And finally, leave the customer satisfied. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to understand the importance of excellent customer service to your community, identify customer touchpoints, and recognize how your appearance can affect customer service delivery. In Chapter 1, you learned what customer service is and who your customers are. But how does providing great customer service benefit the people you work with and the residents you care for? Here's a simple formula. Fewer problems mean less friction, which means happier residents and staff. When you apply what you learn in this course, you may find happier residents and coworkers, less turnover for both, and more referrals. You may also find that your customers will be more forgiving of mistakes if you have a good relationship with them. Each time you interact with a customer, you impact how they perceive the care you provide and your facility as a whole. Each of these customer interactions, no matter how trivial, is called a touch point. A touch point results in either a good or bad impression. For example, when you greet a visitor, that's a touch point. When you don't say good morning as you enter a resident's room, that's a touch point and a missed opportunity. When you comfort a family member, that's a compassionate and powerful touch point. Using your resource guide, list 3 examples of positive touch points and 3 examples of negative touch points you have either witnessed or experienced at your facility. Consistently applying great customer service has other benefits. Great customer service creates an advantage over the competition. Often the only differences between one long-term care facility and another is how a potential resident is greeted upon arrival, the friendliness of their tour guide, and the warmth of the staff members the visitor interacts with. Good customer service may reduce the risk of lawsuit. Reducing lawsuits may be achieved by regularly asking what issues, needs, or questions residents may have, then following up on their concerns. Your appearance matters for delivering excellent customer service. Why would your choice of outfit, makeup, or jewelry make a difference when you're trying to address a complaint or understand a resident's problem? Your appearance is the first thing people notice, and it signals to them if you are professional and capable. A Appropriate dress and grooming inspires confidence in those you serve. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to recognize how improving meal service can have a positive impact, understand the cost of a dissatisfied customer, and explain the importance of attitude in being an effective customer service provider. Mealtime for many residents is the only time they socialize, making the dining experience a very important customer touchpoint. Isn't great service one of the reasons we frequent a restaurant? Daniel is a nursing facility administrator who felt that mealtimes needed to better reflect the importance that residents placed on that part of their day. So he recommended that staff should greet diners at the door, escort them to their tables and hold their chairs, note complaints and compliments, service tables quickly by refreshing water glasses and clearing dishes, and think about how to continue to improve the dining experience. Everyone was delighted with the changes because it lifted the mood at mealtime, engaged residents to share their thoughts about service, and cost nothing to implement. Using your resource guide, what is one change you would suggest to make mealtimes more enjoyable for the residents at your facility? So far, we've discussed how customer service can have a positive effect on the people you serve, but what happens when a customer is not satisfied? A recent study concluded that only 5% of complaints are made directly to nursing home management, while 45% of residents complain only to frontline staff. What is most concerning is that 50% of residents don't complain at all. While that may make your day flow a little smoother, those unknown complaints will be uncovered during yearly surveys and when speaking with residents' families. Improving customer service is accomplished largely by responding to customer complaints every day. How does your attitude affect your performance on the job and impact those around you? Your attitude has two important parts: how you feel about something or someone, and how you behave in a situation. Keep in mind your behavior is a mirror of your attitude. Let's say you didn't get much sleep the night before, spilled coffee on your scrubs, and were late for work. When you show up, you're irritable and short-tempered. Using your resource guide, answer the following questions. What kind of impact do you think your bad mood might have on the quality of service you provide your customers? What steps would you take to improve your attitude? Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to identify the behaviors of the friendly and authoritative attitudes, and use both the credible and approachable voices. All of us desire a genuine, friendly connection with others, whether we're customers or not. Not surprisingly then, a friendly attitude is a basic requirement for all customer service positions and has two important parts. How you feel, meaning you generally like people and are happy to be working with a customer, and how you act, that is, you speak with a smile on your face and in your voice, express appreciation and offer encouragement to the customer, invite questions and input, and use the approachable voice. When you want to sound open and inviting, speak with an upward inflection at the end of the sentence. Some examples include, "Can I help you? Did you enjoy this morning's activities?" Be careful overusing this form of speech because it can create the perception that you lack confidence. Most customers are sensitive to any signal that a customer service provider can't help them. You can reassure your customers by acting with authority. The authoritative attitude also has two basic components: how you feel, you have a genuine desire to help the customer, and you're confident in your knowledge and skills, and how you act. You reassure the customer that you can help, tell them you will hold yourself accountable, and use the credible voice. When you want to sound decisive and confident, speak with a calm, steady voice using a downward inflection at the end of a sentence. Some examples include, "I can help you with that." "I know exactly where to get that information." Overuse of the credible voice can give the impression that you are not interested in the customer's input. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. Following the quiz is a learning exercise, Letter from a Resident. At the end of this module, participants will be able to understand the importance of managing customer interactions, identify the 7 steps for helping a customer, and in an exercise, apply the 7 steps to a variety of customer situations. You manage a customer interaction by holding yourself responsible for the customer's satisfaction, understanding the steps of an interaction and keeping track of where you are in the process, and finishing your conversation with the customer on a positive note. Follow the steps below and most customer interactions will flow more smoothly. Number 1, remember that your goal is to meet, then exceed your customer's expectations. Additional goals include ending the conversation positively and building rapport with the customer. Number 2, create a focused state of mind before speaking with your customer. One way to accomplish this is picture yourself on a dark stage. Now imagine a spotlight suddenly shining on you. That light is your customer's expectation of quality service. Consider this: preparation is the difference between just a spotlight above you and headlights coming at you. Greet the customer with a positive and enthusiastic tone. You only have one chance to make a first impression. Offer your greeting, "I can help you with that," with the approachable voice and a smile. Number 4, gather all the necessary information to find out what the customer wants. This requires asking questions and using effective listening skills. A customer service provider is like a limo driver. Your job is to comfortably take the customer where they want to go. Number 5, deliver the desired service efficiently and courteously. Own the service delivery. When you decide to help a customer, you accept responsibility for their satisfaction and must hold yourself accountable for delivering. Acknowledge the customer's situation. Are they upset, tense, tired, frustrated? Keep the customer informed. You may also have to look up information or speak to a supervisor, but let the customer know what you're doing. This will help them relax. Ask permission. Would your customer prefer to wait, be put on hold, or have you call back? If you need to transfer a call, here are the steps to follow. Contact your coworker to explain the situation. Connect the caller and coworker, then introduce them. Make a supportive comment about the coworker's ability to handle the call, and thank the customer and hang up. Provide explanations. If you must ask a customer for personal information, offer a brief reason for doing so. Follow through on promises. Customers are sensitive to any words or phrases that may be taken as promises. If you do make a promise, be sure to fulfill it or hold yourself responsible if you don't. Make requests, not demands. For instance, ask the customer, "May I have your room number?" rather than "Give me your room number." Number 6, bring the conversation to a positive close. Confirm that the service the customer wanted was delivered to their satisfaction. Once the customer is satisfied, ask if there are any other issues to address. Number 7, prepare for the next customer. Take a series of slow and deep breaths to release any tension. Using the worksheet in your resource guide, do the exercise, Applying the 7 Steps for Helping a Customer. After the exercise, please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to employ the can-do attitude and avoid using killer words and phrases when working with a customer. Your customers want your time and attention. Fail to make the effort they require and you'll have an angry customer. This is why the can-do attitude is so important. It allows you to send the message that you will help the customer or find someone who can. The can-do attitude is built upon these important skills. Creating rapport. We'll learn more about rapport building in Chapter 4. Try to find shared interests to talk about. And respond to the customer's emotional state by maintaining your composure and offering empathy. Nonverbal communication. Use open and approachable body language and good eye contact. Verbal communication. Tell the customer specifically what you are going to do for them. And avoid the use of killer words and phrases. Certain words and phrases may kill the connection you have developed with your customer. For example, telling a customer, "I can't," "I won't," or "I shouldn't." Instead, focus on what you can do for them. Another example is telling a customer that what they said occurred did not happen. Instead, empathize with the customer's situation, determine what they want, and work toward a solution. You'll also want to avoid telling a customer that their statement may be valid, but when the word "but" comes after something positive and is followed by a negative comment, the "but" cancels the positive and emphasizes the negative. For example, let's say you tell your coworker, "Thanks for mopping up the spill for me, but you left a puddle under the bed." Will your coworker feel the same appreciation if you hadn't added the criticism? Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to understand that listening is a skill that can be developed, recognize the internal and external barriers to listening, and learn to overcome them, and identify the verbal and nonverbal signals that someone is listening. You manage yourself by overcoming barriers to listening and setting an intention to understand what is being said. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is a passive process. You'll naturally hear sounds within human range unless there is some impairment. Listening, however, is an active process. When listening, you focus your attention toward understanding. Listening can be developed when you have an intention to listen. You must have the desire to hear and understand what the other person is saying. A focused state of mind. Your mind must be free of distractions so that you can truly focus on what you're hearing. And a process for verifying meaning. When appropriate, you should attempt to feed back what's said in order to clarify your understanding. We'll get into more detail on verifying in Module 2. What do you think makes people great listeners? Do they maintain eye contact? Appear to follow what's being said by nodding and verbalizing? Refrain from judging and interrupting? Using your resource guide, answer the following question. What are your listening strengths and weaknesses? One of the most powerful actions you can take to improve your listening skills is to eliminate or overcome common barriers to listening. Some internal barriers are thinking of what you'll say next, illness, and being distracted. External barriers include the speaker mumbling or not speaking a language you understand. Culture. Each culture has unique modes of expression. Loud music, traffic, or other noise in the environment. Remember, you can overcome these barriers when you set your intention to listen, focus on what's being said, and verify what you've heard. Some elderly residents may have physical impairments such as poor hearing or vision, which require a caregiver to speak slowly and use gestures. A quick check of a resident's glasses and hearing aids may uncover a problem. You should also sit with a resident when speaking so you can make eye contact. Think of the words we use every day as bricks loosely stacked together. In order to make our communication fully understood, we use nonverbal expressions to cement our words into meaningful messages. For example, let's say you ask a resident, "How are you feeling today?" They respond with, "I'm fine," but their body language, depressed tone, and lack of eye contact tell you something different. Using your resource guide, answer the following questions. What signals indicate that someone is listening to you? How do you feel when someone is really listening? How do you feel when you sense that someone is not listening to you? When beginning a conversation with someone, remember what it feels like to be truly listened to and do unto others. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to understand the benefits of listening, apply the required skills to listen actively, and identify when and when not to listen actively. Listening is one of a customer service provider's most effective tools. Listening is a powerful form of acknowledgement and a respectful way of saying, "You're important." Listening creates acceptance because it conveys the message, "I'm not judging you." Listening is the foundation of understanding, since it encourages you to let go of assumptions and seek the speaker's true meaning. Listening also builds stronger relationships because the speaker feels acknowledged, accepted, and understood, and may return the favor. Listening leads to learning, since it creates openness to other ideas. Listening minimizes stress because it reduces miscommunication. People who are considered excellent listeners develop the skill of active listening. Active listening allows for feedback that ensures you understand a speaker's message. Active listening includes all of the signals that you are listening, such as eye contact and verbalizations like "uh-huh" and "hmm." Remember SLANT when you want to use active listening. Sit up, lean forward, act interested, nod, and track the speaker. Active listening is a valuable tool, but like all tools, it works best in certain situations. Active listening is most useful when accuracy is important, and with emotional issues, when you want to help someone regain control of themselves. Active listening may seem odd unless it's introduced properly. A typical example would be to use the phrase, "just so I understand what you're saying," then repeat the speaker's message. You won't need to use active listening during a casual conversation. Wouldn't it be awkward to ask someone, "Just so I understand, are you saying you really like your cup of coffee?" Miscommunication can have serious consequences in a long-term care environment. For example, a resident may be experiencing a medical problem but may be reluctant to say something. You could miss an opportunity to assist if you're not looking for nonverbal signals and using active listening. Using the worksheet in your resource guide, complete the exercise Active Listening. After the exercise, take the quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to identify the 8 reasons why we aren't listening to others, demonstrate how to ask questions, and understand the benefits of using both open-ended and closed-ended questions. 7 reasons why we aren't listening. If you want to listen so you really hear what others are saying, make sure you're not mind reading. You'll hear little or nothing as you think, what is this person really thinking? Rehearsing. Your mental tryouts for, here's what I'll say next, tune out the speaker. Filtering. Some call this selective listening, hearing only what you want to hear. Dreaming. Drifting off during a face-to-face conversation can lead to an embarrassing, "What did you say?" Derailing. Changing the subject too quickly tells others that you're not interested in what they're talking about. Sparring. You hear what's said but quickly belittle or discount it. Placating. Agreeing with everything you've heard just to be nice and avoid conflict does not mean you're a good listener. Using your resource guide, answer the question, what type of listener do you think you are? You can choose more than one from the previous list. A great way to establish rapport with a resident or coworker is to ask conversational questions about their hobbies, children, or experiences. At other times, you will need to ask direct questions in order to help your customer quickly and efficiently. Here are a few guidelines. Number 1, ask politely. Framing your questions softly will set a relaxed tone by using "may I" or "could I." Number 2, keep questions simple and to the point, such as, "May I have your father's name?" or "Are you feeling uncomfortable right now?" Number 3, provide a reason for a personal question. Since people value their privacy and may be suspicious, tell them why you need their personal information before asking. There are 2 types of questions you use every day. Open-ended questions cannot be answered with a yes, no, or a simple fact such as a date. For example, "How are you feeling this morning?" Closed-ended questions are asked to get a yes-no answer or a specific piece of information. For example, "Would you like to sit next to the window?" Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. After the quiz, complete the exercise, "Riddle me this." At the end of this module, participants will be able to identify nonverbal communication, empathize with and direct a customer who is upset, apply rapport-building skills, and understand the importance of recognizing and responding to cultural differences. Creating rapport is related to managing the customer. To be effective, you must understand how to interpret and react to someone's behavior, and guide the customer exchange to its successful conclusion. Rapport occurs when people understand each other's feelings, communicate well, and share a mutual trust. In developing that understanding, we rely more on nonverbal communication, such as eye contact, posture, and hand movement, than on just the spoken word. Why? Because when we are unsure about what a person is saying, it's in our nature to pay more attention to how they are saying it, especially when they're upset. When responding to an emotional customer, you should empathize with them, then direct the conversation to the issue needing attention. Empathy maintains rapport with the customer by letting them know you understand what they're feeling. When responding to an emotional customer, you should reinforce positive aspects of the conversation. "I'm pleased to hear." You should feel good about that. Show empathy for negative situations. "That must be frustrating. I can understand how you feel." Apologize when you have inconvenienced the customer in some way. "I'm sorry about that. That was my mistake." Want to boost your rapport-building skills today? Here are a few examples of how to improve relationships with the people at your facility. When first meeting new residents and their families, shake hands and offer a warm greeting like, "I'm Camille, a nurse's aide. It's very nice to meet you." Walk family members to your facility's entrance to say goodbye, just as you would at your own home. Ask a coworker if you may help them with a task. They will often thank you and complete it themselves, but the rapport you've built is valuable to both of you. One of the greatest challenges in learning to develop rapport is taking into account the many cultural differences that exist within your facility. Let's say you're a Caucasian CNA who recently began working at a facility where there were many residents and caregivers who are Asian. You notice that the Asian residents and their families are reluctant to complain about things other residents might. This may sound like a good idea, but it amounts to important information not being shared that could benefit the resident. After questioning your colleagues, you learn that privacy is very important to Asian families. Sharing feelings and personal information outside of the family circle is taboo because complaining is not considered dignified. You decide that taking the time to gain the family's trust will make them more comfortable sharing information with you, and you reassure them that doing so means better care for your loved ones. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to understand the elements of effective communication, appreciate the importance of being on stage as a customer service provider, and recognize opportunities to create customer experiences. Building rapport with someone requires that you communicate with them effectively. You must picture your goal. The clearer that you can imagine the outcome of a customer exchange, the more likely it will occur. Manage your attitude. The ability to manage your attitude will increase the chances that you'll achieve your service goal. Pay attention. You must be attentive to the person you are speaking with in order to fully understand their message. Be flexible. Adjust your behavior based on the person you are speaking with in order to improve rapport. Interacting with the elderly requires some extra effort in order to understand and be understood. Speak clearly and slowly while using common words. Hold a resident's hands when you want to emphasize something. Face the resident and smile while making eye contact. Point to objects when speaking with the hearing impaired. As a professional caregiver, you are also playing the role of a customer service provider. This doesn't mean you are pretending to care about the people around you. It means when you put on your uniform, you represent your community and your profession, and you should act the part. Marissa is a CNA at a home in Minneapolis. She was running late for work and still had to bring her daughter to school. It was January and snowing. The unplowed roads were getting slicker by the minute. After Marissa dropped off her daughter, she pulled into a gas station around the corner from her nursing facility. As she filled her tank, a homeless man asked her for some change. Instead of just refusing, she loudly criticized him for not working and being lazy. The man walked away mumbling. Marissa ran into work 15 minutes late and jumped into her rounds. An hour later, she passed by the administrator speaking with a visitor on tour in front of the building. The administrator introduced Marissa as a top-performing staff member to the middle-aged gentleman. After the brief meeting, Marissa went back to work only to receive a call from the administrator shortly after, asking her to come to the office. Apparently, the gentleman was not interested in having his father live at the home because of something Marissa had said. Really? I only asked him how old his father was and wished him a nice day. The administrator advised her, "No, Marissa, he was disappointed by something else. Apparently, he was putting gas in his car this morning and overheard you shouting." In Chapter 1, we discussed customer touchpoints. Each time you interact with a customer, you impact how they perceive the service you provide. A customer experience is similar to a touchpoint but goes deeper. An example might be asking family members about a resident's special likes or dislikes, then acting on that information. You might prepare a new resident's room with fresh flowers, a snack they enjoy, or a handwritten note welcoming them. When you create customer experiences, whether for residents or coworkers, the benefits are numerous: less friction, more cooperation, and less stress. Using your resource guide, answer the question, what is one thing you can do today to go beyond delivering customer service to creating a customer experience? After answering the question, please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to understand the impact of stress on mind and body, and describe the stress response. To effectively manage yourself, you must know how stress impacts you, learn to detect your own stress signals, and use deep breathing and visualization techniques. Consider this: you will never be able to manage the customer better than you manage yourself. There are three sources of stress: the environment. External stressors can include the weather, traffic, and noise. We often have little or no control over these outside sources of stress. Your thoughts and emotions. Examples include visualizing a tragedy when someone is late, or criticizing yourself harshly. Your physiology. Illness, injury, and discomforts like headaches can cause stress. Stressors are often interrelated. For example, an environmental trigger, such as being stuck in traffic, can create negative thoughts and emotions like imagining being late, creating justifications, and feeling anxious. These in turn can affect your physiology. Your muscles tense, resulting in headaches and stomach upset. The alarm response is a series of biochemical changes that prepare you to deal with a perceived threat. The process begins with a threat. The same reaction will occur whether the threat is real or imagined. The hypothalamus triggers the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system then mobilizes the alarm response. When the alarm response kicks in, our heart rate and blood pressure increase. Our energy created from glucose increases. Our blood flows into the larger muscle groups to help us fight or flee, and adrenaline inhibits important bodily functions and suppresses the immune system. The alarm response is useful in situations where there is a real threat. However, some people tend to maintain their alarm response for extended periods, which can have damaging effects on the mind and body. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to explain the role of perception in creating the stress response, as well as use reactive and proactive approaches to managing stress. Researchers agree that it is not the triggering event that causes the alarm response, but the meaning that we place on the event. For example, the stimulus: your administrator scowls at you. Your interpretation: he thinks I'm doing a bad job. You respond with anxiety, which is likely to produce the alarm response. Let's look at this situation again, but with a different interpretation. The stimulus: your administrator scowls at you. Your interpretation: you think he must be tired or preoccupied. You respond with empathy. When we're reactive to stress, we try to reduce its impact once it's occurred. You can change your environment. Just walking away from the stressful situation can have immediate benefits. Or change your response to the stressor. Try taking deep breaths and counting to 10 instead of yelling. Being proactive means you change your perspective about the stressor. For example, instead of reacting angrily at a coworker for not helping you assist a resident, you might consider that they may be struggling with a situation of their own. Both the reactive and proactive approaches can be practiced together since they complement each other. Think of the benefits of being proactive and changing your perspective in this way. It's like resetting the thermostat on a heater. If it's always set to go off at 88 degrees, it will probably run the whole winter. If it is reset for 68 degrees, it will run less often and conserve energy. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to use deep breathing to relax the mind and body, and practice visualization to remain calm. Oxygen is brain food. This is why we use the term brain dead when someone is deprived of oxygen for a long time or has just worked a double. How we breathe impacts our emotional and mental states. We tend to breathe in short, shallow breaths when tense. This limits the amount of nourishing oxygen to the brain and increases our discomfort. Deep breathing forces more oxygen into the bloodstream. This releases endorphins, which have a tranquilizing effect that promotes calmness. Deep breathing for just 2 or 3 minutes has been found to help the mind and body relax. Try this exercise. Break into a smile. The idea is to get the facial muscles out of a grim or neutral position. Slowly take a deep breath, hold it for 3 seconds, then slowly exhale. Be sure to focus on abdominal breathing. Make a silent, positive command such as mind alert, body calm. Begin this phrase at the peak of the inhale and finish as you exhale. Let your jaw and shoulders relax as you exhale. Your subconscious mind does not think primarily in words. It is impacted more by images for the same reason that a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's more important to show yourself what you want than it is to tell yourself. In this exercise, you'll practice visualizing calmness. First, allow yourself to relax by taking 3 to 5 deep breaths. When you are relaxed, close your eyes and imagine you were sitting comfortably in a movie theater looking at the screen. Imagine a detailed picture of a quiet, relaxing scene on the screen. Now see yourself climbing into the scene. You are no longer a spectator, but are using all 5 senses to experience the relaxing environment around you. Take these feelings with you as you open your eyes. Using your resource guide, complete the exercise Bliss List. When finished, refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to understand the difference between negative and positive conflict, identify which of the 5 styles of handling conflict best reflects their personality, and recognize the impact of assuming both the best and the worst in a conflict. Relative to resolving conflict, you manage yourself by keeping calm in the midst of conflict and by focusing on resolution, not your position. Not all conflict is negative. When both parties are committed to overcoming differences and improving understanding, conflicts can be resolved positively, resulting in stronger relationships. The characteristics of negative conflict are argumentative, self-protective, win-lose, and disrespectful. Positive conflict is collaborative, supportive, win-win, and respectful. Understanding the styles people adopt to deal with conflict will increase the chances of resolving one. Accommodators put relationships first, ignore the issues, and try to keep peace at any price. Compromisers try to find fast, mutually acceptable solutions to a conflict that partially satisfies both parties. Aggressors deal with conflict by arguing, being disrespectful, or pulling rank. Collaborators explore the disagreement from both sides, learn from each party's insights, and creatively develop solutions that address everyone's concerns. Avoiders may diplomatically postpone discussion or withdraw from a threatening situation. Most people use a mix of styles. For example, an aggressor may decide at the end of a discussion that compromise is the best solution. Using your resource guide, answer the question: which of these styles do you think best reflects your method of dealing with conflict? Why? Many conflicts are maintained through a cycle which begins with assuming the other person is trying to take advantage of you. For example, a person's behavior makes you defensive. You think the other person is trying to harm you in some way. You act to defend yourself. Your actions make the other person defensive. The other person believes that you are trying to harm them in some way, and they act to defend themselves. This cycle can escalate until one party is defeated. In other words, it is a win-lose situation. On the other hand, when you assume the best in a conflict, you believe that the other person is attempting to gain something without intentionally trying to hurt you. In most cases, assuming the worst provokes defensiveness. Assuming the best supports openness. When assuming the best in a conflict, you must consider the circumstances from the other person's perspective. We are often too caught up in our own point of view to consider another. Try to soften your tone towards the other party. Recognizing the other person's similarities to you promotes understanding. Ask questions and start a conversation. Doing so will help you better understand the other party's position. When both people believe that the other is not trying to take something from them, trust can be established and the conflict likely resolved. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to assert themselves respectfully, explain the difference between being problem-focused and solution-focused, and avoid most conflicts by following 4 simple steps. A primary skill in dealing with conflict is to assert yourself while maintaining respect for others. There are 3 aspects of asserting yourself. 1. Making requests by clearly stating your wants and needs. Communicating what you want can be accomplished through making I statements. I need undisturbed time to work on the report, not, you need to leave me alone. 2. Opening up by sharing feelings and opinions. Discovering the similarities and differences between yourself and others develops understanding and trust. Your goal is to share your thoughts without forcing the other person to agree, or implying their opinion is wrong. You should use terms like, I think, I feel, and in my opinion. 3. Setting boundaries. Problems can be avoided when you're clear about what you want and what you don't want. When sharing expectations, be honest and respectful. It hurts my feelings when you shout at me. I'd like you to tell me what you want without yelling. We need to have personal boundaries and be clear what they are. I don't like it when you eat the food I brought for lunch. Please stop doing that. If you don't like it when a coworker badmouths someone, you could say, when you say negative things about Jennifer, it bothers me because I like her. I won't talk to you if you do that in the future. If your coworker says negative things about Jennifer again, walk away. Your approach to resolving conflict will determine the outcome. You are either a problem-focused or solution-focused person. Problem-focused people focus on real or imagined barriers. However, solution-focused people focus on overcoming obstacles. Problem-focused people create limits when they tell themselves, I can't because. Solution-focused people don't make excuses. Problem-focused people evaluate results as either success or failure. Solution-focused people evaluate results as information to improve efforts. Problem-focused people choose to blame others when objectives aren't met. Solution-focused people adopt new behaviors to reach goals. It is far better to avoid conflict than to deal with it. Here are some actions to take that will help you avoid conflict. Take ownership of your role in the conflict. You need to recognize that you add to the problem by thinking you're right and the other person is wrong. You express these thoughts through your opinions, judgments, and actions. Don't make you statements. You statements tend to blame the other person for the problem and put them on the defensive. For example, you need to stop bothering me. Instead, make I statements when offering your opinion. I statements describe a problem in terms of your feelings about a behavior, the behavior itself, and the result of the behavior. I get annoyed when you interrupt me because it breaks my concentration. Don't become defensive. Defensiveness is a common response when you believe you're being attacked. Unfortunately, this will make the other person defensive as well, killing rapport. Try not to take their behavior personally. Use your resource guide to answer the following questions. A coworker you've had a conflict with is staring at you as she heads your way. Judging from the look on her face, she appears to be upset. What are your first thoughts? The coworker stops you and stiffly says, "Wait a minute. What are you thinking now? You respond by angrily asking her, "What's your problem?" Her tone changes when she tells you that her daughter fell off the swings at school and hurt her arm. She asks if you could stay late to finish up for her since she has to leave immediately. What do you think caused your reaction? Your assumptions? Your defensiveness? Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to apply the steps commonly used to resolve conflicts and use an effective technique to overcome intercultural conflicts. You probably experience or witness some kind of conflict every day at your facility. It occurs between coworkers, managers and employees, staff and residents, and between the residents themselves. Although there are no easy formulas for resolving conflict, there are some basic steps that you can follow to get started in the right direction. Steps for resolving conflict, Part 1, the preparation. When preparing to resolve a conflict, focus on finding a win-win solution, not just a win for yourself. 1. Discover the other party's motivation to resolve the conflict. If you are truly interested in ending the conflict, then ask the other party if they are too. 2. Set your goals. Take the time to become clear about what you want by outlining, in writing, what your hoped-for outcomes are. 3. Plan what you're going to discuss. Write out your main points in non-threatening language. This will help keep the discussion on track and avoid creating more conflict. 4. Determine the time and place to talk. Both parties should agree on a neutral space free of interruptions and distractions. 5. Agree on some guidelines. Do not make or accept threats. This only serves to create hostility and reduce trust. Don't give up even if you are both frustrated. It's okay to take a break, but make a commitment to find an acceptable solution. Stick to the issues. Remember to focus the discussion on the issues which created the problem. Don't dig up old conflicts. 6. Find a mediator to guide the discussion if necessary. If you or the other person feel uncomfortable with each other, invite an unbiased party to keep things moving forward. Use your resource guide for the following exercise. Think of a conflict you currently have with someone at your facility. Answer the questions detailing how you will work through your issues. Conflict resolution plan. Number 1. How would you like to see the conflict resolved? 2. What are the main points you will discuss with the other person? 3. Where and when will you suggest a meeting? Why did you choose this time and location? 4. How open do you think the other party will be to finding a solution? If you don't think they will want to cooperate, what can you do to change their mind? Steps for resolving conflict, Part 2, the meeting. Once you and the other person meet, you should follow these steps. 1. Begin by expressing appreciation and optimism. The fact that you are getting together is already a good sign that a solution is possible. 2. Ask questions to get the other person to open up without interrupting or judging. Start by asking them, "Why do you think we are in a conflict?" 3. Acknowledge the other person's feelings and opinions. Practice active listening. Backtrack and summarize what you've heard to confirm you understand. 4. Define the issues related to the conflict. Collaborate to put the issues in writing. 5. Set your goals for resolving the conflict. Also list your expectations for working through the problem together. For example, you should both agree not to interrupt. 6. Identify something that you both find important. Consider the bigger picture. Don't we just want to do our jobs and help our residents as best we can? Doesn't arguing get in the way of that? 7. Maintain responsibility for your feelings. Use I statements to acknowledge opinions and feelings as your own. 8. Work toward an agreement. Focus on shared interests, not individual positions. Finding a mutually agreeable solution requires not getting stuck behind inflexible demands. 9. If you get stuck, try a different tactic. When negotiations hit a roadblock, try looking at the issue from a different angle. Since you've been here longer, why don't you suggest how we can get past this issue? This approach plays to the other person's ego and is hard to resist. 10. Create a plan for handling conflict in the future. Agree how each of you will work toward future problem resolution. Step 10 requires that you work together on a plan for handling future conflicts. Using your resource guide, what will your suggestions be? Intercultural conflict. When we disagree, it's with someone who belongs to any number of groups based on gender, sexual orientation, age, nationality, or race, and each of these groups have a culture associated with it. We can practice tolerance and gain understanding about different cultures when we use conflict as a learning opportunity. A nursing home in San Francisco was experiencing challenges due to a clash of cultures. Certain Caucasian staff members felt the Latino staff didn't speak up and often withdrew from heated discussions. And some of the Latino staffers felt their Caucasian colleagues were loud, pushy, and aggressive. Management suggested staff members should attempt to resolve their conflict by writing down questions concerning the differences between cultures. The setting was more like a game show than a formal meeting. The questions were read by a manager and were answered by random representatives of the cultures present. Some of the questions asked included, why do you avoid dealing with an issue instead of confronting it? How come you harass me with complaints about how I do my job? Why do you embarrass me with questions in the staff meetings? The exercise allowed participants to learn about each other and their cultures in a safe, productive environment. In doing so, the participants also discovered the many similarities they share. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. At the end of this module, participants will be able to avoid the negative impact of judging a customer, identify 5 challenging customer types and their related behaviors, and manage an exchange with an abusive customer. People are quick to make judgments about others. For example, it is easy to label a customer who incorrectly follows your directions as stupid, rather than just being a little slow to comprehend due to illness, age, medication, or some other factor. When you pass judgment on your customers, it reduces your effectiveness as a customer service provider. You may neglect some of your customer service skills because you believe they don't apply to someone who you've labeled negatively. Passing judgment also encourages you to treat your customers as you perceive them. Your language and behavior toward the customer will be based on your negative judgment about them. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. At one time or another, most of us have gotten upset when dealing with a customer service provider. Thinking of our own experiences as a customer will help us become more empathetic toward our customers. In this exercise, you'll work with 5 behaviors that a customer service provider will face. Using your resource guide, list the judgment you might make about the types of customers labeled. An overconfident customer speaks with certainty, tends to interrupt, does not listen, tells you how to do your job, and blames you or your facility. A slow customer talks very slowly, asks you to repeat yourself, seems confused, and gives long pauses after you ask a question. A quiet customer offers short answers, does not engage in small talk, and lets you take the initiative. A talkative customer gives long-winded answers, strays into unrelated subjects, and gives unnecessary details. A distraught customer has emotional outbursts and details the pain the situation has caused them. On occasion, some customers will resort to yelling, cursing, or calling you names when they are angry or frustrated. You are not obligated to accept insults or threats from a customer, but you should never become abusive yourself. Abusive customers will often shout demands, may use profanity, and may gesture aggressively. When working with an abusive customer, try to use the customer's name when attempting to calm them down. Personalizing the exchange may make the customer less likely to continue the abuse. Advise, but do not threaten the customer that you will end the conversation, hang up, or walk away if they continue to act inappropriately. While a customer's behavior may be challenging, it is your response to their behavior that can avoid or create a conflict. Please refer to your resource guide for a quiz about the module just discussed. After the quiz, see your resource guide for the group role-play exercise, Conflict Scenarios.